make sure that you have your coaches and your teachers thoroughly equipped as they go in.
That's good.
So they are ready to run with that, because it's not fair to them for you to say, hey, would you like to be involved in First Priority? They raise their hand because they're youth pastors or they're teachers who have an eager heart to want to see kids. But we need to make sure that we train and equip them so they can do it right. As soon as they get started, we train them and we prepare them and they're ready to go.
Working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now here are your hosts, Steve Cherrico and Brad Skelling.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. My name is Steve Cherrico with my friend Brad Skelling.
Friend.
100%. Let's rock and roll. We got things to do.
Proves there is a God.
Ha!
Who loves me.
Ha!
Cares for me.
Yes, he does,
Changes
buddy.
even your heart.
Yes, he does. My black Grinch heart, 100%. I'm a fan.
You're a fan?
I'm a fan.
Of what? Baseball?
You and First Priority, and let's rock.
Sounds good. Let's
Come
go.
on. What do we got today?
We have another conversation from your time at the Fall Conference.
National Conference. If
Yes.
people did not experience the National Conference, do they have any chance of that this year?
There's no hope for them anymore.
Okay. All right.
No. Next year, you wanted me to make that announcement right now already? Save the date?
No, I wasn't thinking about that.
Save the date. I didn't write that one down, though.
Oh, yeah.
28, 29, 30 of October 2024 in Nashville.
That was not that was not the softball I was throwing you, but that's impressive.
But, well, that's what you said. Do they have a chance? Yes, they have a chance in October of 2024 to come to the Fall Conference. We're working on having it at the same place.
Wow.
We're going the fourth week of October. There's kind of 5. So we're going 28, 29, 30, whatever that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is.
Okay.
Save the date, mark it in your calendar. You want to be there.
I was really just talking about the podcast that would come to follow up from recordings from the conference. But yeah, that's
There's
great.
hope for that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We got a great show today. You had a great conversation with our new friend within a year, Larry Bragg.
I feel like he's been around as much as he can, even though he's new.
That's what happens when you have, a spiritual connection. You just feel like you've been brothers for a long time.
All right.
But he's only been around for a year.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It was May of last year that Sean Hall kind of said, you know what, Brad, I don't know what's happening, but I think God might be ending my time with First Priority. And he didn't blame it on God, but that's how it just came out of my mouth. But hey, my time here might be ending and don't know what's happening. And by August, that was confirmed. He let us know. And September, I don't want to give Larry's complete story away, but by September, Larry was engaged with this conversation. And
correct.
Now a year and a month later,
here
we are.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're here.
And we are going to introduce him, and I think for the first time on the podcast.
I think so too.
And you'll get to meet Larry and hear his story.
I haven't listened to it yet, but he was a soft-spoken deep well when we were together. So we'll see how it sounds when we're together.
That is an accurate description of Larry. He's very soft-spoken. He is patient. He is kind.
Yep.
Slow
former
to anger.
Chick-Fil-A operator, former military man, like a deep well.
Just got a heart for the lost and the broken and is going after it in the Metro East.
That's good.
It is good.
It's good.
You got a story before we get there?
I do. Do you remember Rachel out in North Carolina?
I do. We talk about her often.
Do you?
Not as much as Tayana, but we do talk about Rachel often.
Well, scary a little bit there. I don't know why. Tayana, I'm looking at you right now. That's a little scary that Brad did. A little blushing over there. Brad, you made her blush. That's awesome.
Okay.
So Rachel is operating out of the North Carolina area, and she just threw out on the newsletters. I don't know about you, but I try to describe to all of the First Party chapter and district newsletters, right? Just because there's so much good news. So she threw out that so far this school year, they have had 57 students make decisions for Christ, which that never gets old. Praise God.
Yep.
But the number that I really enjoyed was they have over 150 student leaders trained already this school year.
Yep.
So I don't know the club number, and you might know off the top of your head, doesn't matter, but just the idea that they've got 150 students that they've already empowered to be the gospel on their campus through the club model and then all the conversations that follow is super cool.
Yeah, when this podcast episode comes out, it'll be about a month ago that I was there in that office.
Okay.
And they have a whiteboard up that documents all of those things. I don't know where they all, every day those numbers probably change.
Sure.
There were over 500 Bibles given away in that county already. There were 32 schools going up to 60 some this year.
Wow.
expanding into some more counties.
Wow.
It's a good thing over there in Johnson County, North Carolina.
Johnson County, North Carolina is on the move.
That's right.
That's cool.
God is good.
Yes, agreed. All right. Well, you've done announcements. I've done stories.
Yep.
Should we jump into a conversation with Larry?
Let's listen in.
Let's do it. Well, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. My name is Steve Cherrico, and I am happy you are here. I am with my friend Larry at the National Conference. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be here. Awesome.
Welcome back to Nashville.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
You've been well traveled since the last time you were in Nashville.
Yes, sir. Very well traveled.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, Larry, for those who don't know you, if you wouldn't mind telling them who you are, what the Lord's been up to with you, right? And where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Okay. My name's Larry Bragg. I'm the area director for the St. Louis Metro East. Been doing it for just a few months, 10 months. Like I said, from the St. Louis Metro East. Even as you mentioned, been all over the world the last 6 weeks. So it's been a great time. Just enjoying life with my wife and my family.
That's great. That's great. And you mentioned family. Do you have kids, grandkids, all those fun things?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Been married to my wife, Pam, for 39 years.
Okay.
3 boys, 3 daughter-in-laws, and 6 grandkids.
That's great.
They're the joy of my life.
That's
Love it.
great. That's awesome. So how did you get involved with First Priority? Tell us that story a little bit.
Well, I used to serve as the managing director for the Chick-Fil-A in our local town. I was making a delivery to one of the local high schools, and the actual commander of the Air Force ROTC, who I know, he's the chairman of the board, and he pulled me over in the hallway and said, "Larry, would you ever consider this as an opportunity to serve the Lord and First Priority?" And I said, "Well, Corwin, I've never heard of First Priority. Tell me about it."
Yeah.
So we spent a while talking about that for a little about an hour, and I told him I'd go home and talk to my wife about it and pray over it.
Yeah.
Ironically, in the Lord's good humor, I'd also been offered a job as an associate pastor at the very same time.
Wow.
So I said, "Okay, God, you've got to work this out and give me the answers to this prayer request." And He made it very, very clear. One door closed, the other door was wide open, and the First Priority Board was very thorough in their vetting process. And over a period of about 3 months, they said that I was the man for the job.
It's great.
That was just started this past January 1st of 2023.
So all in all, you've got about 2 years of knowledge of First Priority in terms of being connected to it and now helping lead it.
No, just a year now.
Just a year. Okay.
Actually, well, a year and a month. It was last September that he approached me,
Wow, that's incredible.
and they started the interview processes and everything.
So the little that I know of you, because we're just getting to know each other over the years, right? The little know is you're very thorough. So walk me through your thinking process as you make a decision. Hey, I'm going to jump in with campus ministry.
Right. Well, the thing that was most attractive to me was students. Because I know that students, it's always been my passion of mine. I was a youth pastor for 16 years.
Okay.
So I love kids. It doesn't matter what the ages, but predominantly middle school and high school kids. And just making, I know as I learned, First Priority was a way to get into the campuses so the kids could get to hear about Jesus.
Yeah.
And the kids who are involved in First Priority could get their friends, get them exposed to who Christ was.
Yeah.
And that was paramount for me, for them to be able to do that.
That's great. Tell me about what is going on in Metro East right now. You know, Sean and Gina,
Yes,
who are good friends of First Priority and good friends just of the movement, right?
Yes, sir.
They really launched that and got it going. They're not anymore. We've got you and another teammate there. So tell me what's going on in Metro East.
We are blessed to still have Sean as a coach.
Well, you do. That's
yes, sir,
great.
He has stayed on, and he's doing amazing things with his crew. We are growing slowly. We started out slow this past year as we making the transition. Sean did a lot of teaching of me, and I appreciated that of him.
Sure.
And then we kind of did a strategic relaunch this summer. Did a lot of coaching. We brought new coaches on board, got new teacher sponsors, opened up more schools for the fall.
It's great.
We had to pump the brakes on one school because of some difficulties, not with First Priority, but with the campus.
Sure.
But there's an excitement in the community. it's great to see the new schools that are starting up. Matter of fact, I sent Brad a text probably too early this morning, 6:30 this morning, may have woken him up about one of our schools. So they're growing. I went to one of our campuses last Wednesday, and it was a campus that we've been wanting to start for years and years. And went in there, and there was 3 teacher sponsors, 2 youth pastors, and 8 kids.
Man, that's
And it
great.
just kicked off, and we were so
Great.
excited to see that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question for you, is to tell me a story. So I appreciate you sharing that story. Was that a Miller or high school?
That was a high school.
Very
That was
cool.
a high school.
Very cool. So you're in a place where you're seeing God move and seeing momentum build. That's awesome.
Yes.
Tell me about a challenge. What's been a challenge for you over the last year?
I told my board that I was not gifted at fundraising, so I was sent to the school this past summer to learn how to do that,
Yeah.
and that's been the biggest challenge.
Sure.
Steve, is to do that, get out there in the community, but we have been blessed recently with a couple of churches who have stepped up. I've made appointments. I even have appointments this coming Thursday when I get back to talk to some pastors.
That's great.
And some pastors have raised their hands and said, "We will support you." So my biggest heartbreak is having to tell schools right now, I can't do it right
Yep.
now,
Yep.
because I've got 4 schools waiting.
Yep.
I even have schools open. Now we're on the other side of the Mississippi,
Sure.
on the Illinois side, and I've already got 3 requests from the St. Louis side to start schools. I just got one a week ago today. Today's Monday. Yeah, I just got a request from a pastor over on the west side of St. Louis saying, "I've got a junior high that would like to start a first priority."
Yeah.
So we've got there's the ask is out there, but just having the resources to fulfill that ask.
Yeah. Makes great sense. Great sense. All right. Well, as we begin to land the plan discussion, first, thank you so much for spending some time today.
Yes, sir.
So you're a year in, okay? Year
Yes,
in
sir.
some months. You walk up to somebody who is brand new today at the conference, right? And you begin to have a conversation. You get to look them in the eye and say, "Hey, there's one thing that I could share with you that would be good perspective that I wish I knew a year ago when it came to the way I run First Priority, it came to just how I interact with First Priority. What would be the one thing that you wish you knew a year ago as we were trying to equip you at that point?"
That's a good question. Really, it would be to make sure that you have your coaches and your teachers thoroughly equipped as they go in.
It's good.
So they are ready to run with that, because it's not fair to them for you to say, "Hey, would you like to be involved in First Priority?" They
Yeah.
raise their hand because they're youth pastors or they're teachers who have an eager heart to want to see kids. But we need to make sure that we train and equip them
Yeah.
so they can do it right.
That's
As
good.
soon as they get started, we train them and we prepare them and they're ready to go. That's the biggest thing that I've learned, is making sure that they're prepared.
It's good. Well, the business of multiplication is a coaching business. It's not an addition business. So you hit it on the head. If we can actually multiply our volunteers, multiply those that are on the campus, then we'll see God do cool things.
Yes, sir.
Man, great to spend a moment with you.
You too,
Thanks for
sir.
jumping in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for joining us for the podcast. We're at the national conference. Keep your hats on. There's more coming. Till then. Brad, I was there at the original conversation,
Yeah.
and so got to experience him peel back the layers. What did you take away from the combo?
Well, again, yeah, when I listened into the conversation afterwards, I got his heart for training students. Again, you talk about the deep well, the mission focus of who Larry is,
Yep.
and he really cares about the people and equipping them, training them. I hear him talking about the teachers. I hear him talking about the coaches, and I hear him talking about the students. In this conversation, the students specifically, to say, hey, we need to make sure that we are training and equipping these students to go share the good news of Jesus with their peers.
Yeah, Larry is a clarity is king guy.
Yeah.
And so it does not surprise me a bit on the
Focus.
side of the training and the focus. And
Yes.
let's be really clear for them so that they have their marching orders.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Which leads into that conversation, if you want to go there.
Sure.
Like, when we're training students, historically, First Priority has been we train students how to run a club.
Yeah.
But we recognize that there are more layers to that. That's important, right?
Yes.
But we need to help students do multiple things beyond knowing what First Priority is and how to run the epic cycle, which is kind of the two sides of that, how to run a club coin. You got to know why you're there. We're
Yep.
here to take the hope of Christ to every student, not just do a Bible study or a worship service, but to take the hope of Christ and then how to use the Epic tool are the two sides of that first priority club coin. But there's more layers to that, right?
Well, I mean, you've set up the first one, which is if they don't know their story in Christ,
Yeah.
you got to go back to the beginning.
Their call.
Exactly. And if you don't know the
Last
why,
week we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're right. There's multiple layers inside the training that you've got to not only be clear, but you've got to make sure that you are doing more than just putting a target out in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how do you pull the bow back?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that the arrow in there is actually, prepared to go through the target itself, right?
Yep.
There's plenty of layers itself on getting a student prepared to actually run a club.
It is. And the hard part is, and I'm genuinely saying this is the hard part, that there's not an easy answer. And I think the answer is going to be a little bit different everywhere. But how do you navigate through all of that? Because when you start a club, you want to set them up on a really good foundation, but you don't have a 3-day retreat to go through all of this to allow the gospel to say, hey, here's your call. This is the gospel. Let's make sure we're clear on that. This is the good news of Jesus coming, saying the kingdom of God is here. So, yeah, we don't have that amount of time with students. How do we do that? How do we go about, how do we wrestle with that stuff to say, hey, we need to talk about their call. We need to talk about the gospel. We need to talk about first priority, and we talk about Epic. But then when you get into running a club, how do you public speak? Because these 6th grade boys have never stood up in front of anything before and made a presentation. So how do you do that? How do you navigate conflict when you're at the freshman orientation and a teacher comes in and says, hey, there's separation of church and state. You can't be here.
Yeah.
To respect authority and then maintain your rights as a student. Yeah. How do you navigate conflict? How do you manage a meeting? There's layers of the depth of opportunity is there.
Well, and it's what I was going to say before I interrupted you was it's why we call them coaches.
True.
It is, you can call them mentors, you can call them anything else you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the only way this works is in the midst of, before, and after each of these gatherings.
Yep.
That adult sees themselves as a coach.
Yeah.
They're finding specific people who are not currently playing the game and walking up and encouraging and equipping and retooling, right? And then they're moving from that person and they're going to the next one, right? If you don't see yourself as a coach and you see yourself as just an attender, I'm there to keep it safe. I'm there to make sure that the process is followed, right? Then you miss the opportunity to take that team of leaders and students from one place in August to another place in April when they call it a year.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why the coaching part of it is such a big deal to me because, when I'm in the particular high school that I get to go to, my one school, I'm always thinking about as I walk in, all right, who am I going to make sure that the plan that we've put in place that they're already thinking about before they get there.
Yeah.
Right. There'll be text messages from me because my day's tomorrow. In real life, my day's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there'll be text messages today to the 3 main leaders. Who have you divided this out to? Are you prepared on content?
Yep.
When I show up on campus, besides bringing some snacks for them to do, I'm thinking about those few things I've got to accomplish in the midst of the discussion and at the end. And so I do appreciate and love the fact that we get to coach all the way through the school year.
I agree. And that's a good reminder too, for me in the moment to say, I don't need to set up a 3-day retreat. We don't need to have monthly rhythms, although monthly rhythms are good, right? To say, hey, here's another video to help you talk about public speaking, some best practices or whatever or the gospel or whatever the case might be. But that it's about relationship. First priority always comes back to relationship. We're putting students in relationship with teachers and a coach to say, hey, how can we help you facilitate this club as a group of student leaders and do it well?
Well, what you said is right. It's both and.
Mm-hmm. It is.
There needs to be resource.
Yeah.
There needs to be competitive vision casting because vision leaks. There needs to be opportunity. I mean, how many times have you told a student something specific about learning to share their faith?
Yeah.
And the third time they hear it, they go, oh, I've never heard this before.
Right.
That's good because I've shared it half a dozen times, right? But you've been in the room 3 of them.
Yeah.
So, repeat and repeat on one end
Mm-hmm.
and then be in relationship in the other.
Yep. Well, I think the biggest thing So how do you not miss it? And I think what First Priority of America is going to do is put all of it out there to say, here's some fall training, here's some winter training halfway through the year. Those two things will be different. Here's some monthly nuggets to go through. And for coaches and directors and coordinators, whatever your level might be, to pick out the one, because some people are a monthly rhythm kind of group. Some people are event kind of leaders. And so let's throw it all up there for you to grab it and say, this fits my leadership style. And so I'm going to take that monthly relationship moment and invest into them as leaders. I'm going to take that event and invest in them in leaders, whatever the case might be for you, but for us to put that out there for everybody next year and have that available.
You know, I think about takeaways from today's conversation. One of the things I think would be helpful, Brad, because this is your team's world, is if I wouldn't say I'm new, but if I'm continuing to learn where the resources are. I'm a club coach. I'm a first party new district coordinator. I'm a new chapter coordinator, right? Where on the web world, where can I go that really, the vidcast, the drives, like where is all that stuff found right now? Not that they can't email you at brad@firstfpofamerica.com, which they should. Right. But where is the general area that stuff lives?
Well, most of it's on the web. Out there, firstparty.club. Some of the training stuff's on our YouTube page, YouTube/FP of America.
When I get to firstparty.club, my perception is that I've got to scroll to the bottom and then there are resources for days. Is that
Club
correct?
Resources, Epic, Hope. Yep. Those are the three main pages there. And then, there is a drive. You said Google Drive. There's a drive. If you want specific content or documents, just email me and we can get you specific things. That's more for staff people.
Correct.
But at the moment, when somebody emails me and says, hey, I need access to this guide, I just grant them access and we move about our day. So
because we're not a curriculum company.
We're
not here selling curriculum. We're here to try to empower students.
That's right.
It's good.
And I guess one thing that's rising to the surface for me, because it's part of the conversations I'm having with growing First Priority around the country, is that to remember the students that you're working with now have a call on their life, right? Whether that to be out in the working world, to be out in a church world, to be out in a nonprofit sector. There's any path that they can take, right? They could be leading a plumbing company. You were talking about plumbers earlier, so throw that one out there, that they could be influencing that, and for them to know how to speak the words of Jesus can influence that whole company, right? That can change the culture.
That industry.
The industry, correct. Because that's a really good industry to be in. Or, whatever that case might be. In my selfishness, I'm thinking right now about the growth and expansion, hiring directors for First Priority, regional managers, people to replace us as we continue to grow. We need to multiply ourselves. So who are the graphic designers that we could have working for First Priority of America? You're mentoring those students right now that will be working for Tayana, because we need to throw Tayana's name into this podcast one more time. And the 27 people that are in her office space there that are doing graphic work,
doing marketing work across the country for FP
creation. Who's going to be the director for First Priority in Houston? Who's going to be the president of First Priority of America someday, right? Again, I'm thinking selfishly because that's the world I live in. We can go out and hire people because there are people called all over the country, but we can also raise them up. To say, hey, we're creating people who want to use their gifts and abilities to further the First Priority mission down the road. And so, and even today, I'll say this, if you're a club coach and you have a vision for your community,
say it right there.
Say it right there. I'll sing it to you.
Say it right
there. If you're
there.
a club coach and have a vision for your community, let's talk. What would it look like for you to become a coordinator for a bigger area? If you're already a coordinator, what would it look like for you? We've had several people move back home and start their district down where they grew up and go back home and do that. Whatever the case might be, is this the moment for you to take that step and to say, hey, this is the next piece of First Priority that I get to influence. So
it's good.
Just throwing that out there.
And I think it'd just be helpful to say, again, if you want to contact Brad at fpofamerica.com. You want to contact me, Steve at fpofamerica.com. Resource-wise, firstparty.club. We can ask Tayana to throw that in the bottom of the description of the podcast. But if you've not taken some time to look at firstparty.club and the work your team has done, it would be wise to be well in your order to take some time, dig into that website, go to the bottom of the resources and see what's there, because there's a lot.
Right.
Well done.
Cool. Well, that's another great episode, Steve. Thanks for being a part of it.
Yeah, good combo, Brad. Thanks.
Calling me a friend. Feels like forever ago since I said those words, but they're still in my heart.
Friend in front of me, all the same.
That's right. I'll let you slip this time.
Great.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
See you soon.